So when you think about government archives, you probably picture like a certain level of impenetrable order.
Oh, definitely. Neat rows of gray filing cabinets, endless rooms of typewriters.
Right, and just serious people in dark suits methodically assessing threads. But if you open up this specific stack of declassified FBI documents, we're talking spanning 1966 to 1967, that pristine image just shatters completely.
It really does. It's wild.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are bringing you along as we step into this deeply bizarre time capsule of Cold War America. Our mission here isn't just to, read through spooky stories about lights in the night sky.
No, we are unpacking the intense and honestly often absurd tension between a hyper-vigilant, panicked public and a highly dismissive government.
Exactly, because this documentary landscape is remarkable. It captures a society in the midst of a profound psychological stress test.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember the era. The terror of nuclear annihilation was just a daily reality for people.
Right.
And the space race was constantly rewriting the boundaries of human capability. Everyday citizens were really struggling to process the unknown, and the FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, was just forced to field all of this collective anxiety.
Which brings us to the core conflict, sitting right on top of this stack of files. It's this mechanism you see repeated over and over. And to really understand how the FBI functioned at this time, you just have to look at a letter from a young girl named Judith Goodman.
Ah, yes, from Bradford, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's December of 1966. She is putting together a science fair project on UFOs.
As one does.
Right.
Oh.
And she writes to the director of the FBI asking, quite earnestly, for any data they have. She specifically wants to know, how many planes the military has lost chasing these things and why it matters to national defense.
It's just a sweet, ambitious letter from a student.
Very sweet.
But the response from Hoover's office is like the ultimate bureaucratic stiff arm.
Oh, completely.
He sends back this rigid boilerplate response stating that matters pertaining to unidentified flying objects are not within the jurisdiction of the FBI.
Not their problem.
Exactly. The standard operating procedure was basically to tell the citizen that their letter was being referred to the Director of Special Investigations at the Air Force.
Right, they just passed the buck. And that exact phrase, not our jurisdiction, is plastered all over these documents. But if you think about the FBI in the 1960s, which is an agency historically famous for keeping obsessive tabs on literally everyone and everything.
Oh, absolutely everyone.
A blanket claim of zero interest feels highly suspect. It's like a bouncer aggressively ignoring a bar fight happening right in front of him.
Yeah.
You have to wonder why he is looking the other way with so much determination.
Well, the thing is, the bouncer isn't ignoring the fight. He's just watching a completely different threat entirely.
Okay, unpack that.
To the FBI in 1966, the real danger wasn't actually in the sky. It was the political affiliation of the people pointing at the sky. They deferred to the Air Force on the physical phenomena because the FBI agents were busy scanning the civilian reports for any hint of subversion. The unknown was basically viewed as a potential vector for communist infiltration.
Wow. Okay, so that recontextualizes everything. They aren't looking for Martians, they're looking for Marxists.
Precisely.
And that mindset really comes into sharp focus when you read the file on Mrs. Levi J. Dow.
Oh, that file is fascinating.
It is. It's August 1966. She is a 63-year-old widow living in Goffstown, New Hampshire. The file notes she had worked at the New Hampshire Fire Insurance Company for 44 years.
So like a very grounded, hardworking, quintessential American citizen.
Exactly. A woman whose entire life has been defined by stability and routine. But then a fellow employee hands her a promotional stamp for an organization called the Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America, or AFSCA.
Right.
She gets curious, sends in $3, and receives 12 issues of their publication. But reading that first issue sends her into an absolute panic.
And not because she's terrified of alien abduction.
No, not at all. She panics because she suspects the magazine is a communist front.
Yeah, the sociopolitical climate is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Mrs. Dow writes to Hoover explaining that, based on her understanding of how communists operate, this UFO group strikes her as being backed by them.
But why would she make that connection?
Well, the rhetoric of these early UFO contactee groups often centered around things like global peace, the abolishment of national borders, and creating a utopian, unified human race.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so to a hyper-vigilant citizen in 1966, transcending national borders sounded indistinguishable from Soviet propaganda.
That makes total sense in that context. And her fear is incredibly visceral. She literally begs the FBI to assure her name isn't now aligned with the Communist Party just because she accidentally subscribed to a flying saucer newsletter.
It's really sad,
It
honestly.
is. She even traces her ancestry back to a Native American woman, specifically using the term squaw, to desperately prove to J. Edgar Hoover that she is a loyal, quote-unquote, true American.
It just reveals this tragic level of anxiety. The Cold War paranoia was so pervasive that Americans couldn't even engage with the concept of extraterrestrial life without filtering it through the lens of Soviet espionage.
Yeah.
And the fascinating part is how the FBI validated that paranoia. I mean, they actually launched investigations based on these exact premises.
Yes. We have that October 1966 memo from the Los Angeles field office proving just that.
Right, the IRS employee.
Yeah, an IRS employee in Philadelphia flagged issue number 24 of AFSCA's journal, Flying Saucers International. This employee believed an article in that issue explicitly expounded the Communist Party line.
And the article itself is just a wild read.
It's bonkers. It was allegedly written by Master Kalen Lee Rattan, the head of the planet Correndor.
Which was apparently received via a special directional shortwave radio on May 4th, 1966, by a man named Bob Renaud.
It feels like a sci-fi game of telephone. You have this supposed cosmic telepathy preaching about intergalactic societal structures, getting flagged by an IRS agent, filtered directly through Red Scare politics, and landing on the desk of a federal agent in Los Angeles.
Who then proceeds to run a formal background check on the human receiver, Bob Renaud.
Wait, they actually ran a background check on him.
Oh, yeah. The memo dutifully notes they have no information identifiable with Renaud in their indices. But the mere fact that the bureaucratic machinery of the FBI was activated by a message from the planet Correndor shows the absolute rigidity of their threat assessment.
Right, because the moment the rhetoric echoed anything anti-capitalist, the extraterrestrial origin story was completely beside the point.
Exactly. They just follow the political scent.
But that fear of foreign infiltration didn't stay directed at the Soviets for long, did it? As the sightings continued across the country and the government kept issuing these dismissive bureaucratic responses, you start seeing the paranoia mutate.
Yeah, the public began turning on the institutions themselves.
You can see this shift perfectly in an aggressive letter from an Atlanta citizen named Paul L. Wright. This is from October 1966.
Wright's letter is practically a masterclass in the erosion of institutional trust. He is writing in the immediate aftermath of several highly publicized events, most notably the Michigan sightings earlier that year.
Oh, the swamp gas incident.
Exactly. The Air Force had sent astronomer J. Allen Hynek to investigate, and he famously suggested the lights were merely swamp gas. And that explanation caused a massive national uproar. The public felt completely insulted.
And Wright absolutely refuses to buy the swamp gas explanation. He explicitly calls out the Air Force's standard lines of gas, light, and weather as blatant lies.
He really goes after them.
He does. He talks about a police officer in Ohio or Pennsylvania who reported a sighting and ended up facing terrible ridicule and severe family trouble as a result. Wright is furious that the government is allowing upstanding citizens to be destroyed in the press.
And he takes it a step further, crossing a major psychological threshold for an American in the 1960s. He warns that faith in the military is actively declining, and he actually compares the United States' domestic secrecy to the environment of Nazi Germany in the 1930s.
Wow. That's a heavy accusation.
It is. He is essentially telling the FBI that the Air Force's handling of this is fundamentally un-American.
And what's wild is that he isn't writing to the FBI asking them to find aliens. He's asking if the FBI is being lied to by the Air Force as well.
Right.
He literally asks as if FBI agents have seen UFOs themselves. He is actively trying to pit government agencies against each other. It's like when a company's PR department keeps insisting everything is fine, but the factory is visibly on fire.
Yeah, at a certain point, the public doesn't just disbelieve the PR, they start suspecting the PR department is part of the arson. That dynamic is the exact birth of modern government skepticism. Sociologically, when an authority figure flatly denies a community's lived reality, like when hundreds of people see something in the sky and the government tells them they hallucinated swamp gas, it shatters the social contract.
Yeah, it breaks trust.
Hoover's rigid policy of refer to the Air Force wasn't just laziness, it was a deliberate strategy of compartmentalization designed to maintain order. But the mechanism of that buck passing created a massive vacuum of accountability.
Because when the authority figure refuses to engage with the mystery, the authority figure becomes the enemy. The dismissiveness itself becomes the proof of the cover-up.
If the government is ignoring a phenomenon of this scale, the public logic dictates they must be hiding something catastrophic. The bureaucratic silence didn't calm the public down, it weaponized their imaginations.
Which is terrifying. And while citizens like Paul Wright were losing sleep over a repeat of Nazi-style secrecy, the FBI was actually receiving literal detailed reports of Nazi-engineered flying saucers. And this is where the files pivot from civilian anxiety into highly technical, tactical espionage.
The June 1967 investigation of Paul L. Pyrrell out of the Miami office is arguably the most fascinating document in this entire stack. We are no longer dealing with widows reading magazines or citizens watching the evening news. We are dealing with a man offering complex engineering data.
Right. So Pyrrell was born in Austria in 1924. He tells the FBI that he was a Luftwaffe test pilot on the Russian front during World War II, before being reassigned in 1943 to a top-secret project in the Black Forest of Austria.
And he isn't describing a blurry light or a glowing orb.
No.
He is describing a deeply specific piece of aerospace engineering.
He basically provides the blueprints. He details a 21-foot saucer with a stationary center dome. The exterior portion revolved around that dome, driven by several jet engines. He even names the German engineer responsible for the design, a man named Kerr.
But the detail that really solidifies how seriously this report should have been taken is the chemistry.
The fuel mixture, right?
Yes. Pyle, who by 1967 is working as a mechanic at Eastern Airlines in Miami, gives the FBI the exact fuel mixture used for this craft. He tells them it runs on N2H4O in methyl alcohol combined with hydrogen peroxide in water.
Which is incredibly specific.
It's incredibly significant because he is describing hydrazine and methanol reacting with high-concentration hydrogen peroxide. That is the exact hypergolic rocket fuel mixture used by the Germans in the Messerschmitt Me-163 Comet interceptor during World War II.
Wait, so he is giving them verifiable, historically accurate, highly classified chemical propellants.
Exactly.
He claims the craft had a smooth flow, a rotary drive, and could cover over 2,000 meters per second. He even claims to possess a photo negative of the craft taken at 20,000 feet, along with a still photograph of it parked in a hangar.
And we have to examine his motivation for coming forward in 1967, more than 2 decades after the war ended. Because it wasn't for fame or money.
Right, why then?
He explicitly tells the agents he is terrified this Nazi technology, which he assumed fell into either Soviet or Allied hands after the fall of Berlin, is going to be deployed in Vietnam. He fears for American lives.
So you have an aviation mechanic with a verifiable geographical background handing federal agents hypergolic rocket fuel formulas, engineering specs, and claiming to have photo negatives of advanced weaponry, driven by a fear of its use in an active, escalating war.
Yeah.
And what does the FBI do? They treat it with the exact same bureaucratic yawn as the kids' science fair project. They take the notes, categorize it as a UFO report, and file it away into the not our jurisdiction pile.
It is the ultimate dangerous consequence of extreme bureaucratic siloing. Intelligence failures rarely happen because a piece of information is completely missing. They happen because the information doesn't fit the pre-existing forms.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The FBI had rigidly categorized UFOs as a public nuisance, a public relations issue to be punted to the Air Force. The word saucer acted as an automatic cognitive filter. The moment the clerk read that word, the highly accurate chemical engineering data became completely invisible to them.
Wow. You build a filing system with blinders so thick that even when a potential piece of massive tactical intelligence lands on your desk, you ignore it because it doesn't have the right cover sheet.
Precisely. They couldn't process it as a tactical threat because their internal rulebook didn't have a chapter for it.
That's incredible.
And we also have to understand how historical trauma was compounding here. Pyrrell is projecting the horrors and the secret weapons of World War II directly onto the escalating trauma of the Vietnam War. The saucer becomes the vehicle for carrying the past war's ghosts into the current war's anxieties.
That is so profound. But, to be fair to the FBI clerks of 1967, to truly understand why they might have been so thoroughly numb to these reports that they'd ignore actual rocket fuel formulas.
Yeah.
We have to look at the absolute extremes of what was crossing their desks daily.
Oh, absolutely.
The signal-to-noise ratio was deeply skewed by reports that firmly belonged in, pulp science fiction magazines.
The volume of sheer absurdity was staggering. Intermixed with the frightened widows and the Austrian test pilots was a steady stream of the cosmically bizarre.
Right. Take the Dallas informant from October 1967. A young woman walks into the Dallas FBI office and absolutely refuses to give her name, stating she would feel like a fool if her information wasn't true.
Which is a great way to start a meeting.
Right. She claims that in July of that year, she met a being from another planet who had assumed earthly form, and this being casually gave her some highly classified galactic intelligence.
Of course. She provides an elaborate history of extraterrestrial warfare, claiming an anti-missile was fired at a UFO over Africa in 1962, but was deflected by a force field.
Obviously.
She reports a flying saucer was shot down over the dew line just a week prior to her meeting, and that alien beings were actively trying to recover it. And she casually notes that she receives messages from non-earthly sources, but refuses to discuss her methodology.
I mean, the agent typing up that memo was likely just staring blankly at the wall, waiting for his shift to end.
Most likely, yeah.
And the visual evidence they received was just as wild. There was a man named Ray Robinson who mailed J. Edgar Hoover a photograph he claimed showed two FBI agents in trench coats literally escorting a space alien down a suburban street.
And because the bureaucratic machine demands process above all else, Hoover couldn't just throw the photo in the trash.
Right. Policy required a formal response.
So the director of the FBI actually signs a letter assuring Mr. Robinson that the photograph does not represent employees of this bureau.
I just try to picture Hoover sitting at his massive desk, signing off on a denial that his agents are currently walking aliens like dogs, and just questioning every life choice that led him to that moment.
It's hilarious. But underneath the humor of those interactions is a serious psychological reality. These files document the fracturing of the public imagination during the space age. Well, in 1966 and 1967, the Apollo program is accelerating. Humanity is breaking the boundaries of the atmosphere. The concept of what is physically possible is being rewritten on the nightly news.
That's true.
That kind of rapid technological expansion induces a cultural vertigo. The public's reality testing mechanisms began to break down, and the FBI became the default, reluctant therapist for a nation experiencing collective ontological shock.
Wow. When you read through these 60-year-old memos, you start to realize they are holding up a mirror to how we process the unknown today. The phenomenon itself, the actual lights in the sky, is almost irrelevant in these documents. The UFO is just a blank canvas.
It acts as an inkblot test for the American psyche. When we encounter an unexplainable void, we map our current, most terrifying geopolitical and social fears directly onto it.
Right.
If the society fears communism, the unknown craft or Soviet plot spreading Marxist ideology. If the society is experiencing institutional betrayal, the unknown is proof of a sinister military cover-up. If the society is traumatized by past global conflicts, the unknown manifests as Nazi superweapons.
And the FBI tried to maintain order by drawing a strict line, assuming that refusing to engage would just starve the panic of oxygen. But nature abhors a vacuum, and so does paranoia. Where the government provided a rigid wall of not our jurisdiction, the public filled the void with their darkest, most elaborate suspicions.
Yeah, the mechanism of dismissal didn't cure the anxiety. It isolated the citizens. It left them to connect the dots themselves, often drawing lines straight to the heart of the government.
Which leaves you with a lingering, modern question to consider. In the 1960s, the FBI was completely overwhelmed, acting as an unwilling therapist for a panicked public communicating at the very slow pace of snail mail and typed memos.
Very slow.
So if a bureaucratic apparatus was that easily blinded by its own filing systems back then, how was the modern intelligence community handling today's era of official UFO disclosures? When paranoia and raw data can be amplified globally at the speed of the internet, is the system any better equipped to filter the noise from the truly unknown? Or are we just building faster filing cabinets with the exact same blind spots?